My name is Emike, and I'm going to be sharing something that is strictly for pastors' wives and maybe women in ministry. Now, in the last 20 years, I have had the privilege of working in the ministry, working with pastors, working with churches, and I would say it is indeed an awesome privilege to just be in the ministry and be counted worthy for someone that God would use. Now, but I have also seen, I have made certain observation about ministries and pastor's wife, and so this suggestion is not for everyone. Or maybe you're someone who is intending to be a pastor's wife. So maybe this would also just help you. Now, I call it 7 things you must never forget as a pastor's wife. Number 1, just be yourself. No need struggling to make people like you. I have seen ministry where the pastor's wife has to make extra effort because there are people in the congregation that don't like them, or there are people who like their husbands or very fond of their husband, but they don't like them. Just be yourself. You don't need to struggle, and you don't need to make anyone like you. Now, don't get me wrong, that does not mean that you will not be nice, because as a pastor's wife, you are at a very sensitive position where you get to meet people. It means you must be nice to them, you must be friendly to them. It doesn't matter what you're going through, you want to be the face of encouragement to the congregation. So you must be nice, but do not struggle to make anyone like you. Number 2, expect criticism. Criticism of yourself, of your husband, of your children. Just expect it. People are going to talk against you. And do you know what? There are people that will still remain in the church or remain in the ministry. They're not going anywhere, but they will criticize you. They don't like the way you preach. They don't like the way you dress. They don't like the way you talk. They don't like the way you even look. They will criticize you, criticize your husband, criticize your children, criticize your life. Don't bother about it. Keep your focus on what God has called you to do. Now, you must have a way that you deal with criticism, because it will come whether you like it or not. Now, remember, as a pastor's wife, the fact that God called your husband to be a pastor does not automatically make you a pastor. Now, I remember something very interesting. When I just graduated from the School of Ministry, that's about 6 years ago, and we were visiting a family, and the family asked if my husband was also going to be in the ministry. And then his response was hilarious, but it was truthful. He told them, well, it wasn't a conference call. God called her, and when God called her, I didn't hear him calling me. He called her and not me. Now, that does not mean that God calling a spouse, the other will not support. You want to be sure what God has called you to do, and not because your husband is a pastor, so you are automatically a pastor. Those are 2 different things. You are support to him. Now, when God eventually lays it upon his heart, or lays it upon your heart to step into the responsibility of a pastor, now that's all different. Number 3, your husband is not God to you or to anyone. That means that he is also infallible. He can fail, he can falter, he has flaws. So don't worship him as God, neither look up to him as God. Now, that does not mean that you will not respect him. That's something different. But he is not God. So do not place unnecessary expectation on him just because he's a pastor. Now, he's going to get pressure from the congregation. You will help him better if you, as a wife, as a partner, as a support, is not giving him additional pressure. He makes mistakes too. When he makes mistake, don't say, even you, pastor, you're making a mistake. The church members are going to say that. You too don't have to say that. Number 4, that you are a pastor's wife, or even as a pastor, does not mean that everyone is going to like you. If you like, dress the best. If you like, make your hair in the most expensive place, speak the best of English. Not everybody in the church is gonna like you just because they like your husband. They are two different things. Now, you even need to trash that idea that people are gonna like you. People come to church because of God. I know that there are people in church who come to church because they like the way your husband preach, or the way things are done, the music in the church. Now, the moment you start thinking that people are no longer coming to church or coming to church or not coming to church because of you, you are going to miss your purpose in that ministry. People will not like you. Remember that the devil doesn't like you. And so, why should people that he uses like you? Trash that thought and focus on what you have been called to do. In fact, that is the more reason you must be vigilant, because these kind of people come into the ministry to be a distraction to the ministry and to your husband. Number 5, you are being critically watched and judged. Now, people go around saying that, well, because I'm a pastor does not mean I should not make mistake. You are an example to the rest of the women, to the rest of the girls, to the rest of the new convert. And so you need to carry yourself like an example. Don't let your appetite, your flesh, control you. Be controlled by the Spirit of God. Because whatever you do, someone is going to be copied to do exactly as you're doing it. So you are some people's model. Whether you do wrong, whether you do right. Keep your eyes on the assignment and keep your eyes on protecting the family while your husband is being busy. Ministry is not a competition. You are in no competition with your husband. He has his role to play. You have your role to play, which likely is supporting him in what he has called to do. If he gives you a platform to preach, beautiful. If it doesn't, come on, don't become malicious about it. He hears God, he listens to God, so he's obeying God. Don't go about saying, well, if I preach, if you don't let me preach, that means you don't recognize the gift of God upon my life. You are also in ministry by just being supportive to him and looking out for the family. Number 6, your schedule must never be the same. What that means is that some people, your schedule will never be the same. That means that you may plan to have a big party, and if the church is going to, if it's going to injure the emotion of the church, you want to step it down. Now, some people before they get married, they used to be that loud, and so they get married. They don't want to be that loud. It's not that you are pretending, but you're taking into consideration the sensitivity of the church. You don't want the church to go about saying, well, you're spending church money. That's what is going to happen. You want to be sure that you are keeping your eyes on the assignment and not on personal gain. Now, that's why God called you first in the position. That's why when young people want to get married, I would tell young ladies, if you cannot make sacrifice, don't even get married to a pastor. It's not a position of glamour. It's not a position of gain. So do not even go there. Your schedule is not going to remain the same again. People are just going to call you, hello, pray for me. Or they're going to call you to say, I need counseling. Now, your role is not to shun them or tell them, well, I have my life to live. Let me live my life. No, your life now is for the sake of people. You are in a very sensitive position and you must live the way God has called you to be. People are going to bump on you. People are going to crash on your time. And so do not be offended. Number 7, never ever underestimate the power and the place of prayer and study. If you are married to a pastor, 90% of your time, you should spend it praying for him, praying for the ministry, praying for the children, praying for the family. I talked about family and children because your family and your children automatically become the example and the role model to the rest of the family in church. And so never ever underestimate the place of prayer. Pray a lot, study a lot, seek the face of God a lot, and you will see the difference one woman can make, not just in the life of a husband who is a pastor, but in the ministry. Till I come your way again next time. Bye for now and stay blessed.